Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event. Fight fans worldwide, you've tuned into the number one undisputed boxing podcast today. This is the Boxing Breakdown. Now, your heavy-handed, hard-hitting host, Roxey.
What's up? Welcome to another edition of the Boxing Breakdown. And I am your host, Mark Roxey. And I am here with my partner in crime, co-host, Mr. Harold Hunt. What's up?
What's up?
Yeah, what's going on, man? How are you?
Oh, man, just ready to go.
Yeah, I know you're ready to go. I know you're ready to get in. Get in. So, for those of you that are listening in today, thank you for joining us. And wherever you're tuning in, whether you're coming in from YouTube or you are listening on a podcast from here to there, we thank you for listening, and we thank you for being with us today. Today, we have an exclusive episode. We are going to be breaking down what I would consider my most exciting fight on the horizon, the one that I am looking the most forward to, and that is Manny PacMan Pacquiao against Errol, the Truth, Spence. This is going to be an incredible fight. It's a throwback fight. It's like an old-timers lover. Yeah, if you love old-time fights, this is going to be like the modern-day old-time fight for y'all out there that are, die-hard boxing fans. I know you're going to love this. I know you're going to love it. And if you are, a casual fan, someone who's just kind of poking around little and enjoying the fighting sports, this is a must-see TV, man. You are going to want to tune into this because, there's just a lot to chop up. And, So Harold, I know before this episode began, you and I were talking and we had a conversation about, tonight's episode. And I said, man, we really got to just make this an exclusive episode for the Manny PacMan Pacquiao fight against Errol the Truth Spence because it's such a big fight and it really does require an entire episode. So we're going to probably chop this thing up for about 30 minutes. And maybe a little longer. We go 45 minutes. By that time, you will be at work and life will be good for you. So here we go. Mr. Hunt, talk to me about Manny Pacquiao, Errol Spence. What you got?
Well, your instructions were I am this evening a proponent of Errol Spence, and you are a proponent of Pacquiao.
Bing, bing, bing.
So, I'll go first. Now, I'm supposed to talk about how Spence can beat Pacquiao, correct?
Yeah, man. I mean, listen.
Okay.
For those of you that are listening in, okay, there's something I want to share about you. I got to share this about Harold, right? What y'all don't know about Harold is he's like a by-the-book judge. He's a by-the-book coach in everything that he does. Whatever he's coaching or officiating or whatever he's doing out there, he's always by the book. Self-proclaimed by the book, right? So Harold's got to, ask me, this is right what we're going to be talking about. And what I want to do is I want y'all to watch Harold cut loose because I already know that Harold loves Errol Spence, and he's gonna sit here and he's gonna act like all demure, very chill. But the fact is, this guy loves Errol Spence, and I love Manny PacMan Pacquiao. So we're gonna throw this thing down. Come on, Harold.
Okay. All right. Well, Errol Spence can beat Pacquiao in this way initially. Now, we know Pacquiao has some tendencies. And his tendencies is to throw a whole lot of punches from different angles. But he does one thing that is so clear. It's like you put sugar on your cereal or you don't. This is PacMan sugar on the cereal. Whenever he attacks, he double stutters steps and then he attacks. And he's done it all the time. He does it in his entire career.
Come on, man! You're gonna go right to the Juan Manuel Marquez fight where he got dropped for doing that double stutter step with Marquez hit him with the right hand. Oh my gosh! Can't you let him live that down?
I'm not even referring to that.
All right.
He used that to knock down Thurman. He used that to knock down so many other people. Now, I wasn't going to the negative part of that move. I was trying to say what the positive thing was.
Oh, man. So
you're the one who went there.
So I went right on in right there. I opened that up. Oh,
right.
Man.
So I'm trying to give you a reason why I believe Spence has a chance to beat him. Okay. Right. Well, that's one of them. Well, you let that cat out the bag. But he does double step before he moves in. Okay? That's what he does. Now, he also will languish on the ropes. He's too small to languish on the ropes with Errol Spence. He'll block him. He'll block left and right. But if he's going to sit right there, Spence is going to say, okay, let me hit you. And that's what's going to happen. So he actually has to keep moving. He can't telegraph anything. He's got to keep the fight in the center of the ring. And he has to be able to get by Spence's jab. Now, I can't talk about Spence, how he could possibly lose, because that's your job. But I have my reasons why Spence is vulnerable to Pacquiao, but that's not what for me to say today. It's for you to say. So, number one.
I'm going to lay it out there. There in a minute.
Well, let me lay out mine first. He double steps, fans. He double steps before he comes in. He boop, boop, jumps in. Boop, boop, jumps in. All right? Then he'll languish on the ropes when he gets tired. Or he'll hold his hands, his guards up or whatever and take some punches and show bravado. Come on in. He's too small to be doing that with Spence. Because he could get caught around the glove and get buzzed a little bit and then be vulnerable for anything else come up the middle. Okay? Stamina. His age could be a factor. It may not be a factor. I saw something today. He was talking about he's taking this new product that is legal. It's above board, but it gives him energy, he says, in the later rounds. So if he can get by the jab that Spence has, that constant jab, and get around it and throw all his combinations from the different angles, but I don't think Spence is going to allow him to do that. I think the pressure is going to be too much, and he's not going to be able to handle that jab, and he's not going to be able to keep himself off the ropes, and he's going to lose.
Wow.
Your turn.
Wow, he's going to lose. Woo! Okay, all right, so I don't know what you guys are doing out there. How many of you Boxing Breakdown fans are actually going for Errol Spence? How many of you are going for Manny Pacquiao? Or how many of you really could care less who wins? You just want to see a great fight. Like, I'm not real sure, but what I can tell you is that, okay, first of all, let me break this down, okay, in a way that for the listeners they can understand. So, Manny PacMan Pacquiao, his record is 62 wins, 7 losses, 2 draws, 39 wins coming by way of KO, with 3 KO losses. Errol Spence's record is 27-0 with 21 KOs and 0 losses by KO. So Errol Spence's KO ratio is 77.78, and Manny Pacquiao's knockout ratio is 54.93. Manny Pacquiao I believe he's 41, if my memory is correct. He's 42. Okay, he's 42.
Yes, he is.
And you've got the younger man at 31 in his prime, Errol Spence, right? I get that, and I get all of that. Manny Pacquiao's last fight was in 2019, and that fight that he had in 2019 was, in fact, a 12-round decision win against who? Keith One-Time Thurman.
Keith One-Time Thurman.
There we go. Okay, so you got that. Okay, that is a solid win. Now, granted, he hasn't fought since 2019 and has been, by and large, inactive due to his obligations in the Philippines as a senator, right? So Senator Pacquiao's been a little busy with that. Now, Errol Spence, his last outing was against Danny Garcia. And he went 12 rounds, unanimous decision, against Danny Garcia. Very convincing win. Very, very good, solid win for him. And prior to that, he was in a car accident. A very, very significant car accident. So both of them were inactive for a while. They both kind of measures out fairly even there, right? So when you get into the styles, Errol Spence is a puncher, man. He can punch. He's a big puncher, and he knows how to put them together. Great combination puncher, great movement. He has I believe, the highest punch output in the entire welterweight division of active and non-active welterweights, current welterweights, right? So that's pretty darn impressive. I believe that's a very, very impressive win. His last 6 fights have been against former or current world champions. So he's been grinding, right? Manny Pacquiao, on the other hand, I have to look, I can't hit all 63 of his wins, but you understand that Manny Pacquiao has faced everybody in the welterweight division. Eric Morales, you just go down. Marco Antonio Barrera, Juan Manuel Marquez, David Diaz, Oscar De La Hoya, Ricky Hatton, Miguel Cotto, Joshua Clottey, Antonio Margarito, Shane Mosley, Juan Manuel Marquez, Timothy Bradley, Brandon Rios, Chris Algieri, Floyd Money Mayweather, which, by the way, was the biggest fight in the history of the sport, right? Meaning that it made the most money. Lucas Matisse, Jeff Horn, Adrian Broner, Keith Thurman. My goodness, come on. The list is just epic. Now, Manny Pacquiao is an 8-division world champion, 12-time world champion, lineal world champion, in 5 separate weight classes. Okay, so there you have it. So if you're listening in and you're tuning into what I just said, I don't know if you want me to break down the actual fight, I'm happy to do that. Leave your comments. Tell me what you want to talk about. Tell me what your thoughts are right here on YouTube. Jump on in the conversation. Harold and I will chop it up with you. But what I can tell you is that's what I got, Harold. Rebuttal?
Okay. Well, obviously, he leads the pack, I believe, an 8-time world champion, so no other fighter has accomplished that. There's some asterisks. Either they're there or they're not there concerning how he was able to do that. I'll leave that alone.
Okay.
That could be disparaging. But he still is an 8-division champion, which is very impressive. He started at 122. He's gone all the way up to at least to 147, right? That's the heaviest he ever was. Yes, 147. That's a lot of weight classes to be champion
And Harold, just to refresh your memory, I believe his pro debut was at 106 pounds. Just
Okay.
as a record. So straw weight, I believe it is. Straw weight? Yeah.
All right. So
That's incredible.
106 up to 147 and everything else in between.
Wow.
That's very impressive.
I mean, yeah, it really is. And then when you break down, I mean, if we get into like the actual action that we should expect to see, right? From my standpoint, Harold, and I'd love to know, I need to know what you think about this, but Manny Pacquiao is very fast, and according to the recent reels and videos that have been flying across the internet, if you want to be able to check him out, you can see that his hand speed is coming back, that he actually is very, very fast. And I get the age thing. I certainly know a little bit about that, but the question is, since 2019, it's 2021 now. In case this podcast lives beyond the next couple of years, you'll know that we're talking about this fight in 2021, and really, that's not that long of a time, And the question just becomes, what has he been doing? Who's he training with? What kind of work are the coaches and the team doing for Manny Pacquiao and Errol Spence, right? So Boo Boy is his head trainer, I believe, and
Yes.
Freddie Roach is also in the camp as the main advisor and guider of things. I believe that's the way it is. What do you think, Harold?
Yeah, Boo Boy's been there. They were childhood friends. He was originally just like a yes man type guy, just hanging on. But he was trained by Freddie to actually be a trainer, to understand all the nuances of being a trainer.
Right.
And he's actually in a position now where he can actually take on other fighters and help them be successful.
Right.
But he came on initially as just a hanger on, if you will, a friend, just to for camaraderie, for uh, Manny. But now he's graduated himself to a point where he can actually be a trainer and be successful. So he has
Right.
insight. Of course, Roach has insight, and they've been working with Manny so long. They're gonna see the tendencies and the flaws or whatever and make corrections. So he's in great hands.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we're going into this fight. It's Pac-Man is the smaller guy. I mean, I know that. I don't know what. I guess Errol Spence has a 72-inch reach, and he's about 5'10", right? On the official
Breakdown, yeah,
on the
he's
official
5'10".
record, that's what he is. And Manny Pacquiao, for those of you tuning in, check this out, right? Manny Pacquiao is 5'5.5", so really like 5'6", with a reach of 67 inches. So the reach and the height and the age are all going to Errol Spence. So to your point, Harold, I mean, I really want to be completely devoted and dedicated to the fighter that I believe will come out victorious, which is Manny Pacquiao. But I can see the tail of the tape doesn't lie, and those advantages definitely go to Errol Spence.
Well, Pacquiao does have speed, though. He has speed over Errol, no doubt. No doubt.
Y'all checking this out? Y'all, are you listening in? You guys listening in? You can hear this, right? So I started out, all about Manny Pacquiao, right? And Harold is, we drew the line in the sand, whoosh, right in the sand, right? This is how it's going to go down. And sure enough, now we're kind of looking at the other side of the coin, right?
I'm waffling, aren't I?
I know, I love it. You're not waffling. Anybody that knows enough about boxing knows that this stuff, there's no absolutes. If you sit there and you say, "Oh, Manny Pacquiao's going to win," "Oh, Errol Spence is going to win 110%," nobody knows that. It's boxing. Things
I know,
happen.
but I had to go there because you forced me there. But I will say this: the Pac-Man situation is he has opportunities. I have to step on your side. I got to give my reason why I think Pac-Man can win too. Okay, may I?
Yeah, go for it, man. Of course.
Okay.
I
Earl has a tendency once he gets off to just sit back. He'll throw his combinations, his jab, and all that, and he'll just sit. And he'll sit for a second and kind of reset. And when he does that, Pac can attack. Now, he may sit back right away, reset, and start throwing the jab. But if he doesn't throw that jab, Pac-Man's coming at him from all angles with combinations. Pop, 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 pop. So there are times where Earl will throw whatever he's going to throw and then reset. And when he resets, he's sitting there. He's just sitting there dead in the pocket.
yeah.
Just sitting there.
Yeah.
And Pac-Man is quick enough in the mind to see that those opportunities are going to happen. And they happen automatically. It's like when you take a breath, your body takes the breath. It's going to take, you got to take a breath. You're going to breathe. You're going to inhale. That's what happens with Spence. He throws whatever, and then he inhales. And when he inhales, he stands there. It's a brief second, but for a fighter, it's eternity, and he's wide open. And if Pac-Man is throwing those combinations that night, he's quick or whatever, he'll be taking advantage of that over and over again. And there's no way Earl could get around it because that's just what he does.
Right.
However, if in fact when he sets, he comes right back with that jab, to protect himself and keep Pac-Man off balance, so be it. But there's going to be times in the fight he's not going to come right back with that jab. And then that's when a Pac-Man can attack him from all those kind of crazy angles. And then Pac-Man does this thing, man, where he hits you with two punches at not the same time. He'll hit you with like this body shot, and then he'll come right back with the right hand, like in the very next not even second, nanosecond. So it feels like, well, there's a punch down here, but there's a punch up here. I just felt two punches, on this side and that side. I only saw one hand, but actually it was two hands. And it's like a double punch kind of, not double punch, but it's one punch hits one part of the body, the other part comes across the top, but they're simultaneously, pop, pop. And if you're trying to cover up, we don't see both of them. So it's like he has extra hands or something. But he does that a lot too. So that's something that Errol has to look out for. But I just know that there's tendencies on both of those guys to for the other one to get off. And for Errol, he sits there just for that nanosecond. But Pac-Man is quick enough to jump around. Pac-Man's got the legs and the movement and the footwork to get him in position to throw those odd punches from different angles and all that. He's got that. So he's gonna jump around, step around, or whatever. But because he has the tendency to move back and forth and kind of, if Earl's throwing that jab, he negates all of that. So if that jab is coming, he forces Pac-Man to constantly reset and rebound and reset and rebound and all that. And then he has opportunity, to control him and drop the right hand. If he can't get that jab going, then he's vulnerable for the open spots. So I can't even take Pac-Man's side or Earl's side, really, if I look at everything, Mark.
Yeah, man. I love that. I mean, I love the fact that you see that, and I know that the majority of the intellectuals out there, the intellectual fans that follow the sport, understand that this is not going to be an easy fight for either one of them. On paper, it looks as if Errol has the advantages, but the fact is if you dig deeper and you understand, you've been around the sport long enough to watch Manny Pacquiao do the unthinkable, then you can't count him out. And for a small guy that's packing into a 5'5" frame, 5'6" frame, this guy is a big puncher. It's generated differently. It's created differently. And like you said, it's coming from all different angles. That is an incredibly difficult thing to prepare for. You need very specific guys. Now, I did see Errol Spence in training camp with Toka Khan. And I'm not sure if you know who Toka... Yeah, I saw them working out. I saw them working out together. So, if that's a new clip, then Toka Khan is an excellent fighter that can mimic Manny Pacquiao somewhat, but a little more flat-footed, but very good sparring, a very good look for him to have. And the one thing about Toka Khan that most people don't know is Toka Khan's been trained by Manny Pacquiao. So, excuse me, why did I say that? Boo, that was not correct. Apologize. He's been trained by Freddie Roach.
Yes.
Excuse me, Freddie Roach. So Freddie Roach has, put his skills, talent, and time into Toka Khan. So there may be some information that gets transmitted to Errol Spence, perhaps, from that experience.
I would think so, because Roach took him on because he has similarities to PacMan, and the same type of techniques. Some of them would apply to Toka Khan. So it was only logical that he would choose another fighter that had his main charges type style to see if he can develop him to be as successful as PacMan. Right. So yeah, it's if Errol's working with him, as you say, recently or currently, that's a great coup for Errol to really kind of see what it's like to fight another man who's left-handed, along with himself, because Toka Khan's left-handed, and to see that kind of whirling dervish type of all angle type style, because you can't really emulate Pacquiao. And
right.
I'm impressed that they did find Toka Khan. I'm impressed right now. I am, because there's no one out there who fights like Pacquiao, really.
Right. Yeah, he's a one of a kind. That's a problem. I mean, and if you listen to the litany of people, including Oscar De La Hoya, including Keith Thurman, as you go down the list of people who have been questioned and interviewed about the nature of this fight, every single one of them says PacMan's a big puncher. PacMan is he will tire you out. He will give you, a little bit of chaos and a little bit of war in the ring. And I think that that's something that you can't really prepare for. And so, I just, boy, I'm just so excited about this fight. I really am, Harold. I'm a little disappointed at boxing right now because there's a lot of really great fights out there that just aren't getting made. And it seems like the new trend is, let's announce that the fight is happening, and then a couple months later, let's just find a reason for the fight not to happen. And I think that it really harms the sport. It really does. And, I get that there's a lot of money behind it and there's a lot of contracts and negotiations and such, but just as in the recent, debacle between Canelo Alvarez and Caleb Plant, I don't really want to spend too much time on that, but if they're gonna seriously, the dispute of why that fight won't go down is because Canelo Alvarez wants to. Am I getting this right? Canelo Alvarez wants in the contract that if he gets sick, right? There's one set of arrangement, but when Caleb Plant gets sick, it's a totally different arrangement, right? So
something similar to that. The specifics, I read them, I condensed them, but I can't necessarily regurgitate them right here. But it is.
Right. It's a little bit premature to kind of comment too much on it.
What's good for the goose is not good for the gander.
That's
one
right.
of those things.
That's right. Yeah. So Canelo wants there to be certain parameters around him getting sick and being able to pull the fight or do whatever. whereas Caleb Plant doesn't have the same kinds of concessions. It's not even Steven. So, but these are kinds of things that hopefully get ironed out by the pros, the esquires that can handle this stuff and straighten it out and make the fight go down. But I'm just disappointed. The Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder, debacle. That's another debacle. This is all like, it's all kerfuffle, as my wife says. It's kerfuffle. You heard that saying?
No, I haven't. Must be
I don't know what it is
from your part of the country. Now, another one that's disappointing too was the Lopez thing. He doesn't want to go to Australia.
Right.
So.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm frustrated by all that. But this fight, this is the mother load, people. This
one
fight.
Is done. This one is done. The Porter thing, we don't know if that's going to happen. The thing with Canelo, we don't know if that's going to happen. This one is happening. They're on press tours. This one is actually going to. There's nothing going to pull the rug on this one unless one of them tests positive for COVID. But this one is done. There's no negotiating and contracts back and forth. And I don't want to fly over there. And I'm sick. None of that. This one will happen. That's the best part.
No, I know. It's going to be, listen, this is going to be a blockbuster. 8th division world champion, Philippine Senator Manny Pacquiao is going to go up against the WBC and IBF welterweight world champion, Errol Spence. And listen, this is going to be a championship showdown. This is like nothing we've seen all year long. I'm really stoked about it. I hope you guys out there that are listening in this is going to be, Harold, speed versus power, age versus experience. That's what this fight is.
Now, Errol is big, dude. He walks around at 165, 170, so he's got to make his way down to 47. At best, Pacquiao's going to come in at maybe what? 150 maybe? After he dehydrates?
Let's touch on that.
Errol will come in at 160, man. 262, 162.
Well, this fight is taking place in Nevada, right? I know it's in Las Vegas, right?
Yes.
So I believe there is an upward weight cap as well for a world championship bout, right? So it's not
IBF
just
has.
Yeah, so they're fighting for the IBF. So he's got by virtue of that, I'm not sure what the criteria is for the WBC, but I do know that the IBF does have a mandatory. I think it's like 10 pounds. You can't be over 10 pounds on the top ends on after weight. Like the day of the fight. So that'll have to keep him in that spot, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
What?
Yeah.
Please go ahead.
No, I was going to say I'm not 100% I'm not 100% sure what's in the contract in relationship to the weight cap. But there is a weight cap. There's also, they're both involved in the Voluntary Anti-Doping Association, so FADA's involved in it. Congratulations to both of them for both, being a part of that. So that's good news. But I don't really know. I don't really know what the contract stipulates for the above, but I believe that the IBF and the Nevada State Athletic Commission have a cap for world title fights that they can't go over 10 pounds. If you know the answer to that, if you're listening into the podcast and you do know the answer to that, please put it in the comments so that we can share that out with the rest of the fans and listeners out there so that they know. Yeah, man, this is going to be an epic battle.
Yes. And if they were in California, it'd be double duty because the commissioner out there, he has his own thing going on with the rehydration so they would have to adhere to that piece and the piece that the IBF has in their situation with rehydration. So that would be, they really have to be mindful of that. They have the weigh-ins 2 weeks ahead of time or a month ahead of time to see if you're coming in on weight and all of that stuff. If they were in California, it'd be a lot more to it. but they're not. They're in Nevada, so the only one they have to adhere to is the IBF's stipulations on that. But if they were in California, just as I just said, it would be a whole nother thing because a shout out to Andy Foster in California. He does not approve of this obscene rehydration that makes the fight so unfair. So, I applaud him for putting that in place.
Right, right. And I think, hey, Harold, this mega fight, this fight between Manny PacMan Pacquiao and Errol, the Truth Spence, is going to be shown on Fox Sports app. And I believe it's going to be a pay-per-view event. Is that correct?
Yes, yes. Yeah. Some people are arguing that it's not a pay-per-view event. It's not worth that. That it should be for the masses to enjoy because it will bring the casual fan to the table. $80 for this type of fight. For us, we're going to spend it. But imagine if it was on regular television, Showtime, HBO, or even on Fox or whatever. This type of fight will cross all barriers as far as news shows concerned. Once we have nothing to do with sports, we'll talk about this fight. Jimmy Kimmel, all these different people, all these different platforms, USA Tonight, whatever platform will talk about this fight. If it was on regular television, then you would get a slew full of people who are just casuals watching the fight. But it's on pay-per-view, and it should still do well because it should cross overall platforms. But if it was on regular TV, Mark, it would just be a huge spectacle. I mean, you talking about fight parties. People would have fight parties that never even had them before, and there was no charge for this great fight. And we would pick up a lot of fans because whoever won that fight, they'll be looking for him to fight again. And they will pay pay-per-view. Right. But it's not.
Yeah, it's not. And it is a pay-per-view fight. And in my estimation, it is a pay-per-view fight that is worthy of being a pay-per-view fight. These are two the highest caliber, world-class athletes that are going up against each other. And I definitely believe that casuals and non-casuals will tune in. I'm sure the entire country of the Philippines are going to tune in. Listen, man, Manny Pacquiao, if Manny Pacquiao wins this fight, okay, not only is his boxing career reignited, but I also understand that there are talks of Manny Pacquiao running for the president of the Philippines, right?
Yes. I think we discussed that on our last podcast. That's a given. He's going to be the president at some point.
Wow.
That's no doubt.
Right,
but
right.
When he, if he was to win, the riding off into the sunset would be a beautiful thing.
Right.
Because as a fighter, when you retire, you're either forced out or your body forces you out. This way he can get out on top and go into something else. Now what happens is when he wakes up in the middle of the night with that cold sweat like an addict and wants to fight again. That's what you got to fight. That's the hardest thing. That is worse than any kind of addiction to any kind of drug. So he would have to have something so monumental to keep him away from training and wanting to fight because he's been fighting so long. But if I had my druthers, he would do an Elway.
Right.
He would win everything and quit. But that's the hardest thing to do for any athlete, especially a boxer, because the adulation is so intense. Even you, Mark, I believe earlier today had dreams of coming back into the ring, and you've been removed from the ring for some time, but you still have that feeling that still is in your gut, even now. So
Yeah.
Imagine if you were on the level of something like that and you had to give it up.
Look, once a fighter, always a fighter, right? It's hard. You don't know when the sleeping giant's going to wake up and come back into, I mean, look at Tyson, right? I mean, you just never
Roy
know. Look at
Jones.
look at Oscar De La Hoya. I mean, it's a classic story. We fighters are born and fighters die. So in between, we fight. And that's at the highest level or at the lowest level or anywhere in between. This is what fighters are made of. And so I think it's very, very difficult when your life has a certain, it takes a certain turn, and you are in the gym life, and you're used to going there every day, and you're used to, I mean, hundreds of thousands of people watching you. It's very, very difficult to then matriculate back into a quiet life in the world. It's a very, very difficult thing. And not, so I mean, many fighters do it. Many fighters do it successfully, but not all fighters
that
do
we
it
see
successfully.
that we see successfully.
Right.
We don't know what demons jump on them at night when they're thinking about it. Now for Pac-Man, yes, he got millions of people watching him when he fights, but as a president, he'll still have that same kind of scrutiny, and that's going to help him a lot. Floyd does it by just doing the exhibitions, okay? Because Floyd's like, I got to keep this old no matter what. I'm never going to mess with that, but I still got the itch. So I'll itch it with these exhibitions. And I think Floyd's going to do exhibitions for many, many years because it's going to
Yeah.
be easy for him to do these things and not
Well,
even,
you
but
know,
he gets to train and talk and enjoy himself and have a great time with
for
it. So
sure.
that's how I think he's scratching his itch. Whereas
Yeah.
Roy Jones, his itch was something that he just couldn't see it, and he just took a lot of situations. Holyfield too, but I digress. I just think that Pac-Man would be better served if he was to win and just to jump out right now with all the belts. He's crushed history, and the next year he's the president of the Philippines.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what's so admirable about what he's doing is that he's 42, and the truth of the matter is that look what Bernard Hopkins did at 50, right? Oldest, I mean, he's one of the oldest champions there as well. I mean, you're talking about great things have been done at 42. And to be real frank with you, 42, you still got a lot going. If you've had the career that Pac-Man has had, and you fought the opposition that Pac-Man has had, if you go back and you look at those battles, a lot of those battles, Pacquiao escaped a lot of super damage just because of the way he fights. So I think that bodes very well. That's why that speaks to his longevity. But I mean, Freddie Roach has come out and said, like 4 fights ago, I wish he would just retire. And his wife has said it. His family has said it. But you know what it is, guys. Y'all listening out there, I'm going to bring you right on into this thing. You all know exactly what it is. You know exactly why fighters fight. Real fighters fight. And it's a very, very difficult thing to ever let go. And so I do hope he can get out of the sport safely like Floyd did, and count his shackles, and happily ever after, man. President Pacquiao. That would be a beautiful story to write. And for Errol Spence, if Errol Spence is able to get through this challenge, man, he's off to superstardom as well.
Yes, he's up. People are still trying to say he has some residual situation from the car wreck, and they just don't want to give Danny the proper recognition. Danny was ready to go. He fought very well. I thought even Danny saying I didn't fight that well, but that's not true. Danny fought well. He was on point. That he would have beat anybody else in the world that night, but he wasn't going to beat Errol that night because Errol had too much he had to prove, and Errol was going to win that fight no matter what. But Danny would have been beating anybody that night. But
Well, I do think
so
you what you said just now, Errol, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I want to just touch on what you said. you know, Danny Garcia against Errol Spence was an interesting fight. I do not believe that Danny Garcia showed up as Danny Garcia. I do not believe he put in the kind of performances that he has been known to put in. I believe that there was something amiss there in that fight, and I don't think I was not impressed at all with his performance against Errol Spence. And to speak to the point of the car accident, I had a car accident myself, and I have not recovered from my car accident. It was in 2019. So I can tell you that car accidents have a way of, depending on what, and his car accident was very, very severe. A lot of the damage is long term. A lot of the damage is not readily seen. Sometimes we go through things, but we don't really know what the origin of it is, and then it comes out that, oh yeah, remember the car accident? Yeah. So I think you have to, you definitely have to, a lot of fans think that these fighters are invincible, that these fighters don't. I mean, if you saw the car accident, if you saw what Errol Spence went through in that car accident, you could understand what I'm saying. There is residual. Now, he is a supreme athlete, and he was, prior to that car accident, at the top, at the top of his condition. So, maybe it's a freak survival where there is no long-term damage. Who knows? But you know what we're going to do is we're going to find out soon enough whether or not Errol Spence has any damage, whether his unblemished record is going to hold up against a outstanding mega talent like Manny Pacquiao, and it's going to be a beautiful fight.
Well, I had to rebuttal
Okay.
you there, sir,
Okay.
because I think all the questions were answered when you fought Danny Garcia. In my mind, I mean, he didn't miss a beat, and he was more effective to me. Now,
Mm.
like you said, you've been in a car wreck, and you know that there's things will show up later on down the line. Okay, I understand. I understand that. But on that night, I saw a better Earl. Now, you say Garcia didn't fight well. I think Spence put in a position where he couldn't fight like Danny Garcia.
I got
You
that.
know, he
I
was
got
in a
that. Yep.
situation where he couldn't beat Danny Garcia because he was fighting Errol Spence. That's what I saw.
Well,
I
and
was not disappointed with Garcia's performance whatsoever. He did everything that he usually does. He
yo,
just couldn't really apply it towards Spence. And
I
Spence looked great. He looked good and strong, and he didn't he looked great to me. So
yeah. No, I
for us to
agree
go
with you.
back and revisit this thing about the car wreck and all that right now, even in the run up to this fight, just doesn't make sense to me. And I'm
Well, it
sorry that's going to have to
doesn't.
try to follow him. I mean, I guess he's got to go knock out Wilder or Fury or something like that before they say, okay, you recovered from the car wreck. Because that's all we're going to hear, and that's just not. I just don't care for that. But
Yeah,
it is
no,
what it's going to be.
and let me just say this. Let me just go back so I can clarify that statement to you a little bit clearer. Car accidents are what they are. There's long-term effects from car accidents. You don't know what his diminished state is. I mean, maybe he would have dropped Danny Garcia. Maybe he would have ended the fight in the third round if he didn't have the car accident. So you really can't gauge what level Errol Spence is at versus what level he was at prior to the car accident, which is what I'm trying to state. I'm not stating that he had a bad performance because of a car accident. I'm stating that we don't know what Errol Spence would have shown up against Sean Porter or Danny Garcia. We wouldn't have known, if that was you know, if he didn't have that car accident, right? So that's all I'm saying is that, I mean, he did get a split draw against, a split decision win against Sean Porter. Very close fight, kind of controversial actually, right? It was a little controversy around that fight about, how well he performed in that fight. And then after that, the Danny Garcia fight, he looked stellar in that Danny Garcia fight. He did. He looked amazing. And I had this conversation with Dwayne Fenn, who was on the program a couple of podcasts ago. And we had this conversation offline about, and he was adamant. Listen, Danny Garcia cannot beat Errol Spence. Errol Spence is that good, and Danny Garcia, didn't get his butt whooped. But the fact of the matter is that, he knows how to survive a fight, right? But so that was his point. That was Dwayne's point. He was trying to illustrate the point that Errol Spence is that good, and I get it. All I'm saying is that there is a consequence from that kind of trauma, and so the question is, how would you measure it? You can't measure it because he was a certain way before the fight, before the car accident, and now he's still winning. But what would he have done in these fights had he not had the car accident? That's all. I'm putting that out as a question.
Okay.
And then when you put Manny Pacquiao in the mix, what does that look like? That's all I'm saying.
Okay. What you're saying is, I understand. And it makes a lot of sense to me. My standpoint is I just have the benchmark. The benchmark is his performance against Porter and his performance against Garcia. Something happened in between there. The negative tendencies that he had against Porter, he didn't show them against Danny, which to me is a progression of skill set.
Right,
That's
motion,
all.
For sure. Yeah, I get that.
That's what I saw. So I didn't see the mistakes he made against Porter in the fight against Danny.
Yeah.
That's where I am.
I got that. I really got that. And you know what? I understand that. And, again, we could chop this thing up forever, Harold, because at the end of the day, you and I are going to be smiling from ear to ear watching this fight, along with the listeners and our new YouTube visitors, who are also going to catch the vapors, because when this fight happens, we're going to go live. We're going to actually break it down live while the fight's happening. I cannot wait to do that. I really want to do that with you. And you guys out there, I really want to do it with you guys out there that are listening in and coming to us via YouTube. Thank you, YouTube. And yeah, man. So anyway, Harold, listen, it's been a pleasure. As always, I love you to death, man. Thank you for being on the program.
Same here.
You are the most polite rebutter that I've ever met, and it's been a genuine pleasure and an honor to be with you tonight. And I can't wait until the next episode of the Boxing Breakdown.
All right,
bro. Until then, peace and love. Don't forget to hit the subscribe and like button down below. Peace out. Love everyone. Out. There we go.
Out.
Fight fans, join host Mark Roxey and special guests as they break down all aspects of the boxing world, including news, business, management, training, promotions, fan reactions, upcoming events, matchups, future boxing stars, title fights, state of the boxing world, and all the stuff you don't see when you watch boxing. This podcast is released each week on Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Live streamed on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook Live. It's the Boxing Breakdown, hosted by Mark Roxey.